I have so many conversations with myself that I don't usually feel confident having in social setups. But I am pretty sure I am not alone. Join me on this podcast as I have these conversations unapologetically loud. My name is June Robinson, and welcome to another episode of Cut the Monologue. So, funny story is, I actually had recorded this episode and I went back to listen to it when I was, during my editing, and I didn't like it. And part of me was telling me, just post it, that's people are going to find it interesting. And the other part of me was, are you now turning yourself into someone who posts episodes that you personally do not enjoy? And that's not what I want. That's not why I started podcasting. Any topic that I post, any topic that I take my time to do my research and lay out my points and plan myself through and start recording, I want it to be a podcast that I myself feel proud of, that I myself enjoy. So, welcome to a new episode. Yeah, it's part 2, but it's part 2 to me. It's part 1 to the rest of you. So welcome to a new episode. On this episode, we are going to be talking about adulthood and spirituality. And, I think about this a lot, especially recently. And maybe it is because I am in a spiritual journey on my own. But I have been thinking about it so oftenly. And I'm like, I can't be the only one who thinks about spirituality in my age or in my age bracket. I am pretty sure there are other people who think about this as well, who feel like they are probably in turmoil and etc. etc. And I was like, you know what? Text your friends, ask them how they're managing this, and see if it is something that you want to talk about. See if it's something that you believe will resonate with other people. And here I am creating this episode, and I surely hope that you will enjoy this episode. So, just to start it off with myself, I was born and raised in a heavily Christian home. Heavily Christian. My dad was a staunch my dad is a staunch Christian, my mom as well was a staunch Christian. My stepmom was also a very staunch Christian. My grandmother was a staunch Christian. And so I was born and raised in a family that was very staunch on Christianity. And with Christianity, it comes with it different flavors, for lack of a better word, or something that is commonly referred to as denominations, because we have the Adventist, we have the Catholic, we have the Pentecostals, we have the Anglicans. We just have all these different denominations that are all part of Christianity. So growing up, I was raised in the Seventh-day Adventist way of practicing Christianity. And so my day of worship was essentially Saturday. We, of course, had our own doctrines and things that we would follow. And that is pretty much how I was raised. And I think my first interaction with questioning my belief in the existence of God was when I finished high school and I had just moved into university. So I was alone for the first time. I mean, yeah, I am alone in boarding school, but then in boarding school, it's kind of like a controlled environment. You are with your friends, same as in university, but now there are rules and regulations that govern how you operate in the school. And I feel like when you're in high school, there are certain things that you don't think about on a deeper level. And it's mainly because at that point, all that you're thinking of is, I need to study for my exams, because we believed that your life started and ended with KCSE. So that's all that you were thinking about. I need to pass my exams. I need to be able to go to uni. I need to get good grades, yada, yada, all that, blah, 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 blah. Shit, bang. Okay? So I feel like when now you go to campus or university, you are essentially like dependently independent, dependent in terms of finances. You still, of course, for a majority of us, we still depended on finances from home, but independent in the sense of how are you managing yourself, who are you interacting with, what type of conversations are you having with your friends, what type of conversations are you having with yourself. So around my first year of uni, I was faced with this question of, does God truly exist? Is he really there? Or is this just a make believe that we have put in ourselves as a moral compass? And this was because my stepmom passed away when I was in Form 4. And because Form 4 was all reading, and I was in school most of the year, because I remember when we joined Form 4, we were like, we don't want to go for these long breaks and everything. Like, essentially, we were just giving up fun to study so that we can, like, ensure that we score the best grades to go to uni. As I have said, we believed life started and ended with KCSE. So now I am in uni, and for the first time, it dawns on me that, okay, she's not here, because my relationship with my stepmom was good. I had a good relationship with my stepmom. We would talk about anything and everything. Essentially, she would even know about the guys who would be hitting on me, especially in her work area, because she owned a grocery shop and I would help her with that during the holidays. So she would know things like that. And we used to talk. So now I am in uni and I don't have anyone to talk to. And it dawns on me that, you know what, she's not here. And now I start processing her death. And I start asking myself, my birth mom, my biological mom, passed away when I was young. I was 3 years old when she passed away. And I am gifted this lovely human being as a second mom, and I have this amazing relationship with her. And she goes as well. And she goes at a time where, oh my God, sorry. And she goes at a time when I feel like I was now starting to take a step into adulthood and, things like that. And she's not here. She would be my confidant, and she's not here. And I was like, what is the reasoning behind all of this? Where is the sense in this? And so that was my first interaction with trying to understand if God truly exists. And if he does exist, then why are all these negative things happening, especially to me? Because to me, trying to make peace with the fact that my stepmom is no longer here, but life has to continue, really took me time. And if he didn't exist, then under whose control are we on? Are we just freely existing? And that was my first interaction. And I can pretty much say that all through uni, I had this back and forth relationship. And there were days when you would ask me to be like, yeah, God exists, he loves us, he cares about us, it's everything. And there are days when you would ask me to be like, no, I don't think he's there. Mark you, my second name is Faith. So my names are June Faith. And for me to be called Faith, there were happenings that led up to my birth, that led to my dad saying, no, she's Faith. She is our sign of having faith actually leads to the occurrence of things. So that is pretty much it with my campus. I would say my uni journey with religion or with spirituality. It kept on being a back and forth. I never really took the time to sit down and be like, okay, let me find this journey, let me walk down this path and identify who I am. Am I an unbeliever, or what is commonly called atheist? Am I an atheist, or am I just a Christian who is in a period of uncertainty about their belief? And I pretty much did. That was the end. I never got to like sit down and ask myself this and everything and all that. So fast forward to now, when I finished uni, working, I have my own source of income, I live in my own space. I essentially now am fully independent from my family. And, especially in terms of financial assistance, just the daily. I'm not, when I say I'm independent from my family, I don't mean like I have thrown them out or they have thrown me out. It's just that I do not depend on them as I would have maybe when I was in uni. And the year is 2023. Yes, it's this year. And I am sitting down and I am trying to look at my spiritual journey, and I'm trying to form a spiritual understanding that makes sense to me and that makes sense to what has been happening around me, and that I can incline myself to. And so I started looking at some of the things that I was taught growing up, some of the things that I saw being practiced in my denomination. And I also had the opportunity to be part of other denominations, not as a member, not as a full-time member, but as a seasonal member. Because one thing that I want to say I appreciated about my dad is the fact that he was a very liberal man in terms of allowing us as his children to forge our own paths and make our own discoveries. After he had raised us and we were now fully grown adults with the ability to think for ourselves, he would let us essentially forge our own paths and find out the things that matter to us in life and the things that don't, because he believed that he had done his work, he had taught us, he had raised us, he had given us all the tools that we needed, and he was still present for us to go back and maybe ask questions and get more guidance. But he was a liberal man. So I had the opportunity to be a seasonal member of other denominations. And I was in high school, I went to a Catholic school. So all through my high school years, I had an opportunity to see how, the Catholics worship. And sometime in my in my campus, I attended a Protestant church. So I kind of also had a glimpse of how they carry out their worship. And so now, we are in the year 2023, and I am seated here and I'm looking at the things that I was taught, in church. That is my own church, which is Seventh-day Adventist, and also the other churches that I had the opportunity of being part of, even though seasonal. And I'm looking at those lessons and I'm looking at the habits that were encouraged and the habits that were spoken down upon. And I am looking at life as it is now, and I am identifying the things that I want to stick with and the things that I do not want to stick with. and I think that now is where the challenging bit of it comes, because I sit down at times and I tell myself, what if these things that I don't want to no longer be a part of are the defining things of my spirituality? What if these things are the defining things of my connection with God? And again, in the same setting, I sit down and I tell myself, no, but I want my connection with God to be personal. I want it to be personal. I want it to be intentional. I want him to know that the things that I have dropped because of this. And the things that I stick to, or the things that I am picking up because of this. And it is intentional because it is personal to me. It resonates with me. I don't want to do things simply because society dictates us to do things, the societal stereotypes and societal norms. And you're looking at some of these norms and you're like, it just does not make sense anymore. Especially now with the rise of all these pastors, and you cannot really tell if they are if they are truly with the Spirit, or if they are just there for other malicious intent. But then, whether they are genuine or not, that is not for me to decide, that is not for me to judge, because whatever they do should not affect how I choose to form my relationship with God. So I sit down and I think a lot around the word or around spirituality. And I personally, I am at that point where I do not want to identify myself based on denomination. And this is mainly because from my observation and from my interactions with people and with my friends, whether they are work colleagues or, just friends who I meet, whenever you start discussing about the different ways that people in these denominations behave or the different ways in which they worship, there is bound to be an argument of, we are superior than you, or they are superior than everyone, or they're the worst people because all these things that they believe in doesn't make sense, and yada yada yada, and all this and all that. And I think one of the most common lines is how people would want to say that, Catholics worship Mary, because among the Catholics, Mary is a very honored woman. And you find people maybe bashing Adventists because they're like, oh, you and your songs, and you guys like behaving as if Saturday is the holiest day, and you're just being holy on Saturday, and on Sunday you're back to, all these crazy things. And other churches being like, just the general shebang, blah, 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 nothings. So I choose not to. And to me, it's because I feel and I have witnessed how the existence of these different denominations, they cause more separation than unity. When you look at the Bible and you look at Jesus' teachings, he says that the greatest gift is love. But then when people who claim that they are worshiping God, who is the Son, who is the Father, sorry. When people who claim to be worshiping God, who is the Father of Jesus, yet they themselves are not unified as one community, it makes you question what exactly is being preached in this so-called churches. What exactly is preached there? So I just stopped. I stopped associating myself with the denominations. I stopped making myself feel that just because I am not going to church, that my connection is not existing. And it's because, as I said, I look at the things that I have taught. I look at how the churches that I have been to are worshiping, and I'm also looking at our reality for today. Our reality for today is that 80% of the people who are my age, at least the people who I interact with who are my age, 80% of them are employed. Of these employers, people who have employed, people my age, they work on Saturdays and they also work on Sundays. Or if they have a Sunday free, they probably have it for like a few hours, And this is someone who doesn't want to lose their connection to God, but at the same time wants to be able to make a living. So are you telling this person that just because they are working, they lose their relationship with God? And it's always funny to me that when, I tell people that I believe God exists and I pray to him, and, I try to have these sessions where I have one-on-ones with God, they're always like, but where 2 or 3 people are gathered, God is there. And I'm like, stop using Bible verses as weapons. Stop weaponizing Bible verses. That's my relationship with God. That's not for you to tell me if it's right or wrong. If I feel that it's right, then it should be right. Because it needs to be personal. It needs to be something that I resonate with. So for this episode, I of course asked some of my friends their journeys, how their journey with spirituality has been now that they are adults and they're essentially forming their own individual lives outside of their parents' identities. And I want to read some of the responses that my friends sent to me. So, my question to my friends was, I would like you to share with me how your journey with spirituality has been as you grow older. Have you stuck to what you were raised into, or have you wandered off into finding your own spiritual understanding and connection? So the first response that I got is, I wouldn't call it wandering off per se, more like taking a more deductive reasoning approach to life. Someone from the fold I was in might call it wandering off, but as we have seen, even those places that we ran to for spiritual nourishment have now also taken a radical approach to life. Fall into vile vices that they used to preach against. Now they even rebrand these vices, especially if it's something they will gain from. And that is exactly what I said, like right before I started reading some of these responses. A majority of the congregation and even the leaders of the congregation, they're right now weaponizing Bible verses. And if you don't do as they say, they find a verse that suits their narrative in order to guilt trip you into thinking that you are not worthy. And I'm just not here for it. And that's why I personally took the sole decision to not identify myself with any of these denominations. And so my friend goes on to say, I have still retained the good things I was raised into. Those that are far-fetched and seem to glorify mediocrity, suffering, and self-satisfaction, I throw out the window. So my other friend says, as I have been journeying through life and, of course, adulthood, most times I've found myself questioning my spiritual journey, particularly within the Seventh-day Adventist church that I was brought up in. I had always been drawn to the Seventh-day Adventist faith, intrigued by its unique doctrines and strong sense of community. However, at a certain point, more specifically after the COVID era, I found myself stepping away from active participation, feeling the need to reassess and make sense of the doctrine. During that time, I engaged in a period of reflection and exploration. I delved into the teachings, sought to understand the core beliefs, and reevaluate how they align with my personal spirituality. Trust me, it's been quite a journey. Anyway, this hiatus allowed me to gain clarity on what aspects of the faith are truly meaningful to me and which ones needed further examination. I do strongly believe that moments of doubt and questioning are integral to the growth of one's faith. It's through these periods that we can refine our understanding and strengthen our connections with our beliefs. While I may have temporarily distanced myself from active participation, I never stopped seeking a spiritual path that resonates with my heart. Now I am on my journey to resume my faith within the Seventh-day Adventist Church with a renewed perspective and a deeper understanding of the doctrine. I am embracing this faith with a sense of purpose and conviction. This journey is about finding harmony between my personal beliefs and the teachings of the church, and it is a process that I wish to approach with an open heart and a commitment to spiritual growth. So I want to read from one last response, because I got a number of responses, but I want to read from one last one because I always try to have these episodes as short as possible. So the last one is, anyway, I was born of a Muslim mother and Christian father. Throughout my life, I have never seen my father go to church. I saw him pray once. My mother prayed. She called God when things were tough. She called God when things were easy. Heck, my mother prayed. She prayed 5 times a day and an additional 10 times after the 5 prayers. Myself, I used to believe. Well, I still believed. I pray, though not 5 times a day, but I pray. I give to the poor. I fast during the holy month of Ramadan. If it were not for the risk of being schizophrenic, I would say I have seen God. But times are different when you age. You work harder, you sleep less. You need God more, but you don't pray. You find a hole in your office. You kneel down, but you cannot call God because you see what you ought to be. That rent is due in a few weeks' time, that you left your electricity bill dancing on your kitchen counter. That fuel is up and you ask God, and you ask if God listened to your last prayer. You're afraid to kneel because you will question God's will. Did he really plan to take you down this road? Sometimes though blasphemous, you question if he truly exists. But the twists and turns of life take you to places you've never been. So you craft a short prayer. Forgive me my transgressions as I forgive those that transgress against me. Lead me not into temptation, but deliver me from poverty. Sometimes you're full of spirits. You're sure this is what the good Lord in heaven had intended when he created my ancestors. Sometimes I am not so sure. So I enjoy. I like it whenever I ask my friends, their opinions on topics, especially topics that I want to record for the podcast, and they give me their honest opinion. And this is just a small sample of what was shared to me. And I believe even you, from where you're listening me from, you have your own opinion about how your spirituality has developed as an adult, as someone who is now no longer living in the shadows of your parents, but you're now living as your own full individual, and you're forming your own habits and you're forming your own traditions and things like that. So my takeaway to you, if you are listening to this and you're trying to form your own spiritual connection, or you feel like it's a high time you formed your own spiritual connection, is first things first, address the challenges and obstacles that you are facing. If it's time, create time. You can create 5 minutes, and within those 5 minutes, whatever it is that you do to regain your spiritual connection can be worth it. You don't need to have an hour, you don't need to have 2 hours. That whatever time it is that you get is enough for you to figure out what path, what direction your spirituality wants to take. Once you address these obstacles, that's one hill that you have managed to climb. The second thing is have interfaith dialogues. I love having conversations. I enjoy conversing with people. To me, it helps me get a clearer understanding on things. And having interfaith discussions is one of the most important things. When you have these interfaith and interdenominational discussions, you will realize that we are one people. Our practices may be different, but we are one people. And when you have these conversations, you will discover the disconnects that exist. And these disconnects are what lead us to feel like you're better than the other, and leading to this lack of unity among the different faiths and among the different denominations. So have these interfaith dialogues. And when you are having these interfaith dialogues, my most important thing is do not have it from a point of feeling like you are attacking the other person, and also be open. Do not feel like you have to be defensive of the denomination or the faith that you are raised into or the faith that you believe in. It should be open, it should be free, it should be free of any judgment. The other thing is spirituality and well-being. Explore the impact of spirituality on your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. To me, discovering my spirituality helps me to deal with a lot of low moments in my life, and it also helps me to be thankful for the high moments that happen in my life. So I feel like it gives me some form of mental stability, especially when I am going through a low moment. I feel like it keeps me level-headed. It keeps me knowing that it's a season, it will pass, and when the light at the end of the tunnel shines extremely bright, I feel grateful. That's for me. Also, spiritual growth. Examine the concept of continuous spiritual growth and evolution. You know, spirituality is an individual journey. That I can tell you for free. If you are practicing spirituality because someone you know practices spirituality, it will not resonate with you on a deeper level. It is an individual journey. You need to find it on your own, or it needs to find you, however you want to frame that. But it needs to be something that comes to you as an individual, and that's when it will make sense to you. That's when whatever practices you decide to pick up or whatever practices you decide to drop will make sense to you. And remember, it's something that keeps on changing. Because it keeps on growing, and growth is change. So it is something that keeps us growing. It's something that keeps on changing, and you should be able to embrace that. And also have your community that supports you It's one heck of a journey. And in as much as I am saying that it is an individual journey, at times you hit roadblocks and you feel like, I need someone to talk to. I need someone to tell me that I am not going crazy. I need someone to tell me that I am level in this. So you need to have a community. You can also look at spiritual exploration tools. There's so many podcasts out there that are talking about spirituality. I am talking about spirituality right now in this episode. So there are much more podcasts and books and even workshops that can help you in your journey of spirituality. And last but not least, embrace and respect diversity. Right now, I say that I do not identify with any denomination and I have my own reasons for it. But I have friends who stick by certain denominations. I cannot judge them. I cannot have hate for them. That is their journey. That's their own personal connection. It resonates with them. I respect that because it makes sense to them. Just because it does not make sense to me, it should not mean that I bash them. The same way they respect me and my decision to not attach myself with any denomination, they respect that. I can tell you for a fact, it does not make sense to them, but I have never had any of them judge me or make fun of me or poke me for it. They respect me, I respect them. So make sure you have respect for diversity. And with that, I am coming to the end of the episode. Be sure to leave your comments in the comment section. Share this with your friends or with anyone who you feel like needs to listen to this episode. And until next time, that's it for this episode of Cut the Monologue. Be sure to follow us on our social media platforms at Cut the Monologue. That is Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. And also follow us on all streaming platforms and turn your notifications on to always get notified whenever we drop an episode. Until the next episode, goodbye for now.